So, in the pockets of America where there's extreme inequality and poverty, many of the victims of the lifestyle live on the government's welfare policy. And in a purely capitalist society, what safety net exists where people are able to improve their own quality of life, where there's other inequalities such as like education, access to jobs, things like that.
So first, I don't buy that inequality is a problem, in capitalism, right? So there's inequality, but I don't think it's a problem. As Sam said, I'm going to say I don't care about inequality, and I don't. So I care about poverty. I don't care about inequality. So what happens to poor people under capitalism? One of the amazing things, if you look at free economies, again, to the extent that they're free, relative to what we have today, which I think is a lack of freedom, but to the extent that they're free, is that two things happen. One, capitalism tends to produce more jobs than there are people. So you get massive immigrations into capitalist countries because there's so many jobs being created. So poor people can get jobs. The unemployment rates under capitalism, and again, the closer you get to true free markets, the more this happens, that unemployment rates are basically approach zero. Second, because of the investment in capital, the productivity of labor goes up dramatically. So wages go up. So people become less poor not because of a handout. People become less poor because they're becoming more productive and therefore they're rising up. You can see this in 19th century America. You can see this in 19th century England. You can see this in Hong Kong. Hong Kong's a brilliant example because 75 years ago there was nothing there. There was a fishing village. 7.5 million people lived there. Why? Because people went on rafts to get there. No safety net, nothing guaranteed except their freedom. Freedom of contract, not even voting, so not even democracy as we understand it. Property rights and contract law respected. People went there, created their businesses, built wealth, and built a life for themselves. So that is the way poverty gets eliminated, right? Now, you might ask, well, what about the people who can't, right? There's a certain percentage of the population, I think it's well less than 1%, but there's a certain percentage of the population, they got into an accident, something happened, and they can't take care of themselves. What happens to them in my ideal capitalist economy? People help them voluntarily. So those people are dependent on other people one way or the other. And the question is that dependency going to translate into a legal claim against me? Is that dependency a moral claim against me? If you're suffering, if you got into an accident and you're suffering, does that mean I am obliged morally or politically to help you? And my answer is no. Not morally. I don't owe my life to you just because you're suffering. And certainly not politically. So the question is, how you convince me voluntarily to help you? And of course, the people closest to you are most likely to help you. And the people further away are less likely to help you. But one of the things that happens in a free capitalist society is you get civil institutions, voluntary institutions, not coercive institutions, that help out people who cannot help themselves. So charity is the main form that takes. But there are all kinds of other mechanisms, mutual aid societies, unemployment, private unemployment insurance. There's even insurance against poverty in some capitalist countries in the past, or semi-capitalist countries. Insurance against poverty that you could buy to protect you from those kind of accidents and things like that. In other words, you're still dependent on other people, but now you have to ask for their help instead of demand their help, which is the system we live under today. Today, if you have a need, you can use the force of government, guns, in order to take my money and get help. I think, again, I'm against force. I'm against coercion. I'm against authority.
Maybe I'll say something about this theme too. It's a great question, I think. Let me just say something about poverty again. It's striking that the only countries that have really eliminated poverty are probably some of the countries you like least. So again, the Nordic model, Scandinavia. There basically is no poverty in those countries. They're not very capitalist. I think of these things on a spectrum. So you might as well. Well, actually, no, you don't, because you only define capitalism as that one extreme end. But really, there's a spectrum. And the question is, to what degree is society in control of the economy? The more the answer is yes, the more socialist it is. Norway is quite socialist in that sense. Society exerts a lot of control through its very democratic state over the economy. And one of the things it does with that control is it taxes a lot, and then it redistributes that wealth to do a lot of useful things, among them basically eliminating poverty. So the answer to your question in the American context is, we need to have more social spending. We need to have more taxation. We need to do more to help people. For instance, I'll just end with this. Here's one thing we could do. We could have a universal basic income that would literally eliminate poverty overnight. We could literally just give every American $15,000 a year, divide it up monthly if you want, and bam, poverty's gone.
I have a question for Yaron. Is that correct? I am talking about pie, so we're going back to the pie.
Sure.
But you say there is no social pie, like there's no pre-existing pie. There is only the pie that we create. And I'm running away with this pie thing. But I mean, I think at least from my perspective, this is the one argument I would have against like a libertarian capitalist system is that, I mean, that's just not factually true. I mean, I was born, my family is not wealthy. I was still born into a family that could provide for me, and I was born with a pie. I mean, and so at what point in my life, if I grow up and I get a good job like I've always been expected to by everyone in my life, and I say, this is my pie, nobody else can have it, like, that's just not true. I was gifted some percentage of this pie through the arbitrary luck of being born into a middle-class family. So how do you justify saying that all wealth has been created by the people who currently...
Yeah, that's good. Good question. So it's true that you're going to benefit from the fact that your parents created a pie. And their parents, they might have benefited or might not have benefited, I don't know what their situation is, from their parents having created a pie. So you're going to benefit from intergenerational pie baking, right? But, okay, so what, right? It's still somebody baked the pie. It's still not our pie. It's your parents' pie. And they choose to give you a piece of it, right? But they chose voluntarily to share that piece. And it's sad that some people don't have parents who have baked a pie for themselves. And these new people, these young people have to start from scratch. And they're, in some sense, at a disadvantage, right? Because you've got a little bit of pie that you can leverage for your future, and they don't have that pie to leverage for the future. But remember, somebody always baked the pie. There's no pies that just poof come into existence. Pies get baked by individuals, by people. So there are these disadvantages. I'm not going to pretend that we all have equal advantages or we're all born equal. On the contrary, I admit completely, we're all completely different. Again, look around the room. We're all completely different. We have different abilities, different qualities, different characters. Some of them we shape ourselves. Some of them are just issues of luck. That's life. That's life. Now the question is, given that, how do we create the most opportunities for those people who weren't born with a piece of their parents' pie, or however you want to see it, right? How do you create a system that provides them with maximum opportunities to bake a pie, their own pie? And I think freedom is the way to do that. I think leaving them free, and we can get into the economics of why you don't want to tax Bill Gates, why taxing Bill Gates is like the least efficient thing you could imagine using his capital for. That the capital left in the hands of Bill Gates is far more productive and far more creative in terms of helping people create little pies if he actually invests it rather than if you take it away from him and start distributing it. So freedom is the best mechanism to create the most, not equal, the most opportunities for everybody, including those who are most disadvantaged by the fact that they weren't born to the right parents or weren't born with the right genes, right? It's what you do with what you have and the environment in which you live, capitalist or socialist. I believe capitalism provides you with the most opportunities to actually succeed in life. And I'm going to stop there, but at some point I'll comment on Scandinavia. We'll find an opportunity to do that.
May I just say something about this as well? It's a really good question. Just on the issue of opportunities for the least, for the worst off. It just doesn't seem plausible to me that a kid born to homeless parents in libertarian utopia who have to rely on charity and oops, they're not likable, so nobody gives them charity. It just does not compute with me that that kid has the most opportunity any human society imaginable could give anybody. That just isn't true. Look again at, in our country, bad though it is in many ways, from the standpoint of justice, at least kids have access to public school, food stamps if they're poor, et cetera. And we could do much better. We could do much better on this score. But again, if you're really serious that you want a society that extends the most opportunity even to the worst off, there's just no way you would pick a libertarian society. There's just no way.